All right, you guys, we are back on another Tuesday with Men of Impact with Dr. Brad. I am your host, Dr. Brad. And guys, I'm excited. Obviously, you can see I am dressed to the nines today. Normally, I got the sport coat and maybe a t-shirt on underneath. But today, I came dressed, suited and booted up. You can't see the suits. You can't see the boots, but you can see the suit. I got a tie on today because as you will hear about in the interview and the person that we're interviewing today, this actually fits. And so for those of you who are watching this for the first time, this show is Men of Impact. And that's exactly what we do is we theme men of impact. And what I define men of impact is men who are men of faith, pursuing their purpose and having impact on the world around them. And so if you are watching this for the first time, we welcome you. We ask that you like and share this information. This show is dedicated to helping the aspiring male entrepreneur who is looking for that purpose, to help them discover that purpose, pursue their calling, and impact the world. And so this show provides the perfect combination of both faith-based and entrepreneurial principles designed to help that aspiring male entrepreneur with the clarity and strategies needed to go from stuck in their career to successfully pursuing their calling, creating both impact and income, and living that fulfilled and significant life that they deserve to live. And so today, before we get started, today's show, we're going to be talking about how to create success by solving problems, by being a solution to problems that are around you. And so many of us, we want to be successful entrepreneurs. We want to go after something of significance. But oftentimes we aren't looking at the problems around us and saying, okay, well, this may be a problem, and seeing these problems as opportunities. So many of us, we may complain about the problem, but the question is, we need to start looking at problems as potential opportunities. Because as an entrepreneur, as somebody who wants to have significant impact, and be able to help other people and serve other people, in essence, that's what we are. We are problem solvers. And so here's what I encourage every single person who's watching this right now is if you want to have great impact on the world, if you want to do something big, if you want to start something grand, if you're unfulfilled in where you are right now, but you want to, but you're just trying to figure out what that thing is, start looking at the problems around you and how you can start using your gifts, resources, and current skills to be able to solve those problems. And let me tell you, the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger impact that you will have. I'll say that again. The bigger the problem that you solve, the bigger the impact that you will have. All right. And so as always, one of the things that I know is stopping us from being able to have that significant impact on the world, to be able to live that life of fulfillment and impact that we want to have, is that we lack clarity on specifically what we're supposed to be doing. We don't know what, we don't know how, but specifically it's like there is something that you were built to do, that you were already predestined to succeed at. Now, that doesn't mean you don't put work in, but it's going to be working smarter and not harder. And so to be able to help you find clarity on that purpose and what that is, I have a free training program that you can download. Go to www.drbradmd.com/pivot plan. And on there, you'll find a 3-step proven guide to be able to help you find clarity on your purpose and actually stop wasting time, money, and energy on pursuing the wrong thing and actually start doing that thing that you have been designed to thrive and succeed at. All right, you guys. Now I'm super excited to be able to bring on the person that I'm interviewing today. Like I said, I got the tie on. I never wear the tie, but I was fixing the tie today, and you'll hear his story about how he teaches people lessons with just tying a tie and what he's doing for young men out here. And so today's guest is PK Kersey. He's got a great story. So he was an employee for a long period of time, for 24 years, and he progressed and advanced his way into the position of an office manager. And then he saw that there was a need. He saw that there was a problem, that there were men who were coming in for an interview, oftentimes him interviewing these men, and they didn't have the appropriate attire to be able to succeed at an interview. And so as a result of that, he started a nonprofit called That Suits You. And now he accepts new and gently worn professional attire and provides that to job trained men entering the workforce. He's going to tell us all about that. As a result of his success in that, he's been themed on the Steve Harvey Show, Essence, Black Enterprise, ABC. Let me tell you, just to be able to get in touch with this man and be able to get the time that we're going to get today was just crazy, because he's busy telling his story to everybody. In addition, he's also launched a new company called PKs Pitch. He is a successful author of 2 books. He's a speaker, also has his own podcast. And listen, I'm thrilled to be able to have him on the show, and that we had enough time to be able to get him here. So without further ado, Mr. PK Kersey, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on, sir? Thank you for having me on. I truly appreciate it.
Yes, sir, man. Yes. So, like I said, man, I hardly ever wear the tie and the suit, but I said, man, if I'm gonna have PK on here, his brand is called That Suits You. I gotta at least try to come correct this time, and maybe he can even critique, what I got on before we get off of here. But I appreciate your time being on here, man. You got a fantastic
jacket is fire.
You like that? Okay, see, I appreciate that. Don't be just telling me that because I'm the host, PK. Don't tell me that just because I'm the host, bro. Because I'm gonna kind of look. I'm gonna take what you got to say as a professional with this, with these suits, to the bank. But so I've said what you do, but in your own words, man, tell us, what is That Suits You, and tell us what it is specifically.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. I truly appreciate you for the invite. Basically, like you said, That Suits You is it's a nonprofit organization where we collect suits and ties, and we provide them to job-trained individuals for work, for interviews, students for prom and graduation. But more than just providing them with attire, we want to present them with more information, with representation of Black men who are maybe have strived and done things in different industries, but now coming back and teaching them and training them and giving them insights on how to do different things. Like you said, I worked for the New York State Department of Motor Vehicle for 24 years. And, I was an office manager, and I used to interview a lot of individuals. And one thing I saw that, one, a lot of the guys that came in, they weren't dressed properly. New York State, if you think about it, from my experience, is about 75% females and 25% male. And one of the reasons that was like that was because a lot of the guys, when they came in for interviews, they weren't, number one, dressed properly, and they didn't give great interviews, as far as they lack some of the simple job skills, soft skills that you would think: shaking hands, holding a conversation, asking questions, little things like that that may not seem like a lot, but when you put everything together for that whole interview process, it became a lot. But when you think about it, men in general, we have a tendency not to talk a lot. Mm-hmm. Black men, more specifically, we talk even less. Yep. So when we talk less, and we don't have the proper skills that we need to dominate these interviews or to make a great first impression, that explained why a lot of them weren't being hired. So I saw a problem, and it was something that I wanted to do something about. I didn't know what at first, but I knew it was something that I wanted to do to kind of help this situation.
So you were an employee for 24 years. Let me ask you, during that time, I mean, did you ever have the itch to enter, the entrepreneurial world? Did you ever, consider doing something outside of what of what that career was? Or did you just happen to notice this was a problem and then solve it? Like, how did that come to be?
Great question. My father, who recently passed 2 years ago, he worked at a company for a long time, but I used to always see him like Ralph Cramlin on a honeymoon, like always coming up with new ideas or something to do, like to make that extra income.
That's right.
So he always used to do something. So I guess that kind of was planted inside of me. But also my mother, she was more on the side of, because my father, he worked for MTA for about 27 years. My mother worked for the phone company for 30 years. So they planted that inside of us, me, my brother, and my sister. Look, you're gonna work for a company for a long time. That's the path of success. So that's what they taught us.
Right.
Which worked. It worked for them. Great, wonderful. So, but they planted that in me and us. So I kind of worked for DMV for 24 years, but I also felt that urge to want to do more. So, I used to do multi-level marketing. I had a chair company where I used to try to rent chairs out. There was always something that I did, but it was just something I said, something little just to bring in extra income. I never thought that I would have like my own company or do this on my own, because it was ingrained in me. It was taught in me. It was branded in me to have this position and stay here. This is what you do. This is a sign of success. When people see that you have that position, especially in the Black community, that is a sign of success, that you've been here for a long time. So I never really wanted to do it on my own, but I did do other things on the side to kind of bring in a little extra income.
And one thing I want to tell people is, staying with a company and that longevity and loyalty to a company, I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think as long as the company is doing what they say they're going to do, you work hard and it seems to be okay. But if there is that itch, right? If you do feel like, man, I feel like there's something else out there for me, that has to be addressed, because so many times, like you said, so many of us are branded in the thinking, look, man, my dad, he was a bus driver for the he was a bus driver for the city in Houston for years, worked his way up. I mean, for more than 30 years. My mom, same thing. She was a bank teller, and so that was just what I did. I saw my mom she became a published author. She tried to launch a book, but so many people were like, no, like, why don't you just kind of go back to that safe and secure thing? Nothing's wrong with that. But I feel like, yes, if there is that itch, if you feel like, man, there's something that's out there, we can't really suppress that, and we have to address that. But I'm curious, man, this sounds like this is your passion, like your purpose, and you're pursuing it. How did it all come together? Because so many people who are listening, they're probably thinking like, man, how do I find that thing? Like that thing that's just supposed to be what I'm supposed to do. Because I've done network marketing myself, and I've done some things, some side hustles and stuff like that. Nothing that really just ever took off. And it wasn't because of wasn't because of lack of effort. I always felt like it wasn't the fit or the thing. How did it come together, man, where like you were like, dude, I see a problem and I think I have the stuff to be able to solve it. How'd that come together?
I think it was like a tsunami of things coming together at one time. Perfect time, perfect place. I say that because I was becoming frustrated with my position at work. I was becoming upset with the treatment I was getting from upper management. That probably was number one, because there are a lot of people in upper management who really lack people interpersonal skills, but they have the position, but they don't have the communication and interpersonal skills. So they were over me, but they didn't, I felt like you're just not going to talk to me or treat me any type of way. But I was an employee. I was in that situation. So I felt trapped. I had to do it. So I was becoming frustrated with the position and wanting more. And at that point, and this is the big component of it, my wife, we had been wanting to have kids for a long time, and we had miscarriages and different things like that. And then finally, at this point, she was pregnant, and she was going to give birth to twins. So we were having twins. So I was like, I said, Father, I need, Father God, I need more money in my life. This is a big moment we're having, new home, different things are going on. And remember, I was already thinking, how can I help these men coming in for work? So it was all these components coming together. And I said, Father, I need to make more money. And honest to God, truth, this is the answer that I feel that God told me. He said, I want you to give away suits to men so that they can get back to work.
Now, it was that clear. It was that clear, bro.
I'm telling you. And the reason I remember it so clearly is because I felt that this had nothing to do with what I asked. I asked, how can I make more money for me and my family? My wife is having kids. I wasn't thinking about the big picture. I was thinking about us four and no more. I said, how can I make more money for me and us? I got 2 kids coming. She's not going to be working. She's off from work. I need to make more money to take care of us. And the answer I heard was, I want you to start giving away suits to men so that they can get work. And I was like, I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't add up. Here's what I appreciate more than anything. Here's what I appreciate, PK. No, I'll be real, man. You know, because one of the things that I'm guilty of getting better at is I will make a decision before going to God. Right? That sound familiar? Right?
Yeah.
I'll just go. So let's just stop right there. And the fact that you know, because this is something that I teach my clients now is, hey man, listen, we need to go to God first. Like, God's got a better plan than we do, despite the fact that it may sound crazy and may seem like it has nothing to do with what it is that you want. He's obviously got a better plan than we do. But here's my question, man. Were you into suits? Did you enjoy dressing and stuff at this time? Like, how did that, or was this like a complete, like out of, disconnect?
When I had started with DMV in 1993, there was a black gentleman who I named Mr. Phelps, Mr. Fitz. I saw him maybe 5 times. He was maybe 5 levels up from me. So we didn't have any direct, we said hi and bye, but he was dressed so sharp every time I saw him. And he was like the only black man who was in that type of position. And I don't even know what he did. All I know is he walked around. Every time I saw him, he walked around. He was sharp. He was in suits. And not only that, my father, even though he didn't work where he needed to wear a suit, when he went out, he wore a suit. So it was I always had that thought inside me of that look. But those 2 gentlemen, especially my father, made such an impact that when I started with DMV, I was at the lowest level of, they called it a grade 9 position, but I used to wear suits when as soon as I came in, I started wearing suits. So it was something that stuck with me. And the caveat to that is, when I was going for the interview, I didn't have a suit. I was coming out of the club, dancing, partying era. And here I am. Only reason I was going to this interview is I took the test long ago and I had got such a good score, they called me down for the interview. But I wasn't going to go because I didn't have anything to wear. But my pastor at that time, Pastor David Sparks, he took me to the store, bought me a suit, and bought me everything I needed for the interview. And he planted that seed in me.
Wow.
That later on would become that suit you.
I often tell people, man, again, if you want to do something big, if you're trying to find that thing, you have been equipped over time. Look at the past. Look at the past. Every business that gets started, every something of impact was seeded at some point in the past. And I feel like we've been equipped this entire time. We're getting equipped. Some of the people who are been working 20 years somewhere, all they're doing is really getting equipped. And there are things that are happening. Who would have knew that think about this. This is crazy. You didn't have a suit. You weren't ready for the interview. You can remember that. You can remember also having people who say, look, we're going to help you. We're going to get you a suit. Don't worry. So you can get to the interview. And now coming back around full circle, you're providing that same, service to other people. So let's get back to this before. So God tells you, I want you to go get some suits. What happens next?
Yeah, it's funny how you're saying it and I'm replaying it in my mind. But I like to call it like the Karate Kid moments, because he's painting the house, he's dusting off the car, he's doing all these things, and he doesn't realize that all these things play a incredible part in his future. But these little tasks he's doing, he doesn't think are preparing him to do anything. So all these stories I'm recalling back in my mind all prepared me for today. So when God said, I want you to give away suits, again, my thinking, you have to go back with me to that moment where I'm, thinking about, and you said it, you said you used to make moves without God. That's one of the reasons why I did that first, because I made so many bad moves without him. I said, well, let me try him first to see. And then when I got that answer, I was like, see, this is why I do This is why I normally do what I do, because how in the world can me giving a suit to somebody who needs work affect me paying a bill for me having twins? But I said, you know what? I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So you got to remember, I don't have any space to store suits. I don't have any connections where I'm going to give away suits. I don't have anybody that's going to give me a bunch of suits. This is just from scratch. This is from brand new. I went online to look for organizations that were doing it. I saw a bunch of women organizations that were doing it, like Dress for Success and Bottomless Closet, but I didn't see any for men. Now there were some that existed, but I couldn't find them. It's not like I couldn't find them. I looked, so I said I have to do this from scratch. So what did I reached out to Dress for Success, the CEO, who me and her became very close now.
Wow.
And she basically told me, she took me around the office. We did a tour. We had conversations, and she showed me and told me this is how we do it, and this is what we do. And those conversations were integral for me to do what we had to do as far as getting a 501c3, forming a business in New York, making connections, and doing everything that needed to be taken. Now, God didn't tell me none of this. All he said was start giving away suits. But like you said, just because your purpose, that doesn't mean you don't have to do the work. There's so much work behind that one statement of give away suits to men. It's like when God told Moses, go to Egypt and get my people. That's all he said.
That's
but
it.
It's so much
That's it.
stuff that's into that. He said, I want you to give away suits. But that statement that he said to me that's my surfboard that I stand on and from my life, because that one statement has changed everything about me that I've done. And from that moment to the rest of my life, that statement has changed everything.
Man, that's huge, because I was just having a conversation with my wife, because I definitely want to know what your wife was thinking, pregnant, and you saying, "Hey, look, I got this message from God to tell me to go get this." But I was having this conversation. With my wife, man, is that so many of us want to be successful, man, and we want to do something of grand impact. I mean, that was certainly me, man. Even as a physician, I just felt like, I'm doing something good, but this is not it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's something else. And the path to success, I don't think is anything like we think. I think more of it is making sure that we're faithful to what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? You were just faithful to what he had asked you to do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And you didn't know how it was going to look, but it was like, look, I got to respect the clarity that I got from this message, at least. And I love the fact that you said, see, this is why I ain't coming. This is why I came to you before in the past, God. See, for me, it wasn't even, it was like, look, I'm afraid you're going to tell me to do something I really don't want to do. So the fact that you asked him, you got that and you respected it, but you remained faithful, man. And I try to tell people, I feel like through being faithful, what ends up happening is that the reward is some of the success. But it's not this, I got to go force it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you were given a message and you were just faithful to following it out. But yes, I do want to know, what was your wife thinking whenever you were like, all right, look, I got this clarity. I'm about to go give away some suits, and somehow it's going to maybe turn, I don't even know it's going to turn the money, but I know I got to do this.
Right. I want to say this, but I don't want it to come out the wrong way. So that's why I'm saying this first.
Yeah.
But I feel I have to say this. I'm gonna get to my wife question, but I feel I have to say this about for women who have a husband that hears something like that and he has to do it. One of the hardest questions or toughest questions that I don't think that they should ask, and I know that they want to ask it because it's every woman's, they want to know how money's coming in, how things going to happen. But when he says something like that, it's kind of hard for the husband to hear, well, how is that money going to come in? Are you getting paid for every time you go out and do it? Is this going to be money? Like, it's kind of hard for the man who's got that call to hear that.
Oh yeah.
Because once he hears that, he may say, well, look, how can I say automatically thousands of dollars are going to come in from me giving away suits when I didn't even know how that was going to happen? So if she would have said that right away, that could have deterred my actions. to go into, well, let me just go straight for money. Let me just go for making money.
Yeah.
And not realizing the call of God, which will lead to increase in provision, but it may not be as fast as that. If I heard that right away, well, how much money is this going to bring in? And where's the money going to come from? That could have made me change my mind and say, well, I'll do 10% of that, but let me go 90% for what I know to bring in the money. So maybe immediately I may have had more money, but in the long run, it would have been worse. But when I told her that, she said that she was with it. Because remember, I was still working for DMV at the same time that I was going to be doing this.
Right.
So she still was okay with it. It was the turning point of when I went full time with this and no longer with DMV, but it was a little bit more of a concern, because now we have to depend fully on, not on this venture, but on God to supply the provision for the venture and other ventures.
Well, man, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because I think, and it's not just wives, and let's be clear, they mean well. I mean, they're just trying to, they want to protect, they want to make sure that,
Right.
we're good, the kids are good, and oftentimes I think a lot of people mean well. I mean, I can remember talking to my mom about, Mom, I know I'm a doctor, but I'm about to go start doing this speaking and this coaching. And she's like, what? What were you? But son, you're a doctor. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. And so you can hear these things, and they mean well. Or even time,
Right.
I mean, you can remember, you start a network marketing business and you start telling people about it, and people just kind of, shooting you down, and it ain't working. And so people mean well. They're really just trying to protect you because of either their lack of knowledge or inexperience. So one of the things that we have to do as men is at least try to have some grace and some tough skin at the same time, because people just may not know and just say, you know what, I just feel this is, what I need to be doing. Particularly, and you made a great point, if I heard the call of God, and if I'm staying with him and I'm in his word and I'm trying to do what I got to do, and now if you ain't doing none of that, talking about you hear the call of God every week, now I'm gonna be like, all right, now we got to figure out what this is. Like, we got to figure out where this call is coming from, because I don't know if it's God doing that. But assuming you're doing all those things, man, and you heard it, and this is not something, you're trying to do something different every week. Yeah, man. It can be tough to hear the resistance, but there's going to have to be some level of thick skin on our part, but also some level of grace, knowing that, you know what, man, they mean well. They just,
Right.
it's rooted in the right place, but it may not be coming out, the right way. So I want to know, man,
Right.
you're going out here. Did you see the connection between the suits and the problem that you saw at the workplace? Was it like, I'm going to give suits for the people at the, to be able to like, in essence, what happened to me, didn't have a suit to the interview, or were you able to connect the giving of the suits to the problem that you noticed in the workplace and the interviewing of men?
What I began to notice was that the suits were probably like a small portion of everything else. Like the suits should have been the icing on the cake, but in actuality, the cake wasn't good either. As far as, that's when we started to develop the training programs to assist them with interviews, maybe even not a job, being an entrepreneur, just the thinking. So at first I was thinking the suit was the all and be all, the be all.
Wow.
But then I realized the suit was just part of the problem, as far as confidence, communication. We have, actually, the name of our program is called Choices, and we break it down to change, habits, options, image, communication, and effort equals success. So we combine that, and at the end of the program, then you get a suit. So before, we were just giving suits for men who were coming home from prison because we figured, that's all that they needed. But that wasn't all that they needed. So much more. And even with what we're doing, it's a bigger picture, but we felt that the training and the information and the representation was a whole another component of also providing suits.
So in essence, and this is what this show is about, is being able to create success by solving problems that are around you. You didn't know the suits were going to expose so many different problems that was actually going. You thought the suit was the tell-all be-all solution. You start giving guys the suits, saw that not. Did you see that not much changed? Like what continued to happen? You were like, oh, yo, we got a different problem we got to solve.
Right. It was during the interview, not being able to communicate, not being able to work in a healthy, like if they got hired, then they still weren't able to have healthy work relationships. Like they wouldn't pass probation. So it exposed so much more as management. I began to see so much more was wrong, because I wanted to give brothers the opportunity, so I would hire them, but then I would see that they lacked the discipline to work a week without calling out. And thinking that was normal behavior, or coming in late consistently all the time. It's not just the train. I mean, it's a bigger problem. So digging in to find out, okay, the suit is on the outer layer. We got to get more inside. Our motto is we want to train the inner man, but suit the outer man. But to get to the outer man, you have to give them information. You have to be able to, they have to trust you. So there's a whole relationship component that goes with that. So we thought the suit was just, giving them a suit. Yeah, we give them a suit. But now we realize it was so much more. And then going into that, a lot of men, they didn't know how to tie a tie. Why is that the case? My father taught me, other people, their uncle taught them, but it was the case because a lot of men were missing from the household. So they missed that bond of a father, son, older man, younger man, teaching them how to tie a tie. And that's a whole nother relationship. And that experience of tying a tie is not just a tying a tie experience, but it's of a bonding relationship experience as well.
Man, when you got this calling to do what you do with the suits, did you know that you were going to be able to impact lives the way that you are able to now? Because listen, I personal growth, personal, spiritual, business growth and development of men is my thing, bro. Because I just think we need more of us out here who are mentally sharp. And, in essence, what you're saying is, when you dress sharp is just an external expression of what you are internally. You can't just put a suit on something and expect everything to be okay. But did you see that a suit and being able to transform lives by tying a tie was going to be so impactful? I mean, like, did you see this? How did this come to be?
When we started, I just thought it would have an impact where I was working at. I really didn't see the big picture until I began to do my research and study and get information. Then I found out, wow, I can really build into something. There is an avenue, there's a lane for me to build this and to explain this and to help. And in New York, there's so many job training programs and there's such an availability for it to happen. I began to realize it. And then it really struck me is when I found out or really looked into the 7-Eleven rule, where within the first 7 seconds, people form 11 judgments about individuals. And I really began to look at that and I said, 7 seconds can go so quickly. And then people have already formed a judgment about whether or not they're going to hire you or not. And if you don't look the part or if you're not speaking the part, those first 7 seconds will go so fast and you miss out on that opportunity. So we tell people you don't just want to make a good first impression. You want to make an outstanding first impression. So how do you make an outstanding first impression? And that's what we talk about as far as making that incredible, outstanding first impression. So when I really began to look at that, that's when I realized that it can really be big.
So you started out with suits. And then the new problem comes. Guys aren't staying at work. Guys are still, coming late, doing all the things that a suit don't fix, right?
Right.
Over that time, did you have to learn some new skills in order to solve the new problems that you had now? Or work on new things for you in order to be a great problem solver in that space?
I believe I've learned a lot working for DMV as far as, we held meetings, leadership, different things like that. But naturally, I'm more of an introvert. So going out and starting this business and being the face and being the leader and organizing this brought out more extrovert characteristics about myself. Not only that, but also developing curriculum, making sure dealing with all aspects of the job as far as pickup, deliveries, marketing, promotion, uh, CEO talk, relationship skills, networking, all of these elements. I had to make sure that I was on point because I had to represent the brand that suits you. I had to represent making business connections. You know, we have partnerships with HBO. We have partnerships with Banana Republic. So these organizations, they wanted to see who is this that suits you. So you
Wow.
have to go in and make these impressions, and you have to handle business. And so realizing how important that part of the business is, yes, I had to make sure that I was on my game each time, every single day, doing what I can to promote the business and make sure it represents what it is that we want it to represent. I think that's a never ending. Every day you want to be better. Every day you want to challenge yourself. Every day you want to show that yeah, this is the brand that we're building. This is what we're committed to.
And I think you make a great point, man, is it starts with you. You know, so many of us, like I said, we want to start something, we want to do something, but the reality is like you never stop getting refined. You never, I'm sure as new problems come along, you're like, okay, well, I got to learn how to do that. We got to navigate that. I mean, like you said, I might need to learn the marketing now. I need to learn the networking now. Maybe didn't have that skill before, but you know what? Perfect time to go ahead and learn it right now. And then you become a representation of your brand. You represent it. I mean, from start to finish. And so for so many people who want to start something, be prepared to continue to grow. Like, you know,
Right, right.
I'm sure you are completely different than when it started. The brand is completely different than when it started. Um, when did you start it? And what's some of the changes that you've seen from the very beginning when you started to now?
We actually started February 2013. That's when
Hmm.
we started the papers to get form the business. And actually, I was still at DMV working, and I actually worked at DMV and had the business until 2017.
Wow.
So what, 2017? Yeah, 2017. So that was 4 years of doing both businesses. And I'm just thinking within the last 4 months, you said you're not the same since the business started. I don't think I'm not the same since the last 4 months of being in quarantine and being locked down. So I mean, I think we're always changing, always evolving. But I think that's a good thing because you don't want to remain stagnant. You don't want to remain the same. I mean, just remember, a few years ago, Blockbuster was king.
Man,
Now Blockbuster is gone.
preach,
so
preach, bro.
so you always want to pivot. You always want to make sure that you're better. Just like you said, I have a podcast. A few months ago, we started the podcast called Tongue Tie because a lot of things were shut down, so we had to change. Uh, 24 years, I always wanted to write a book when I worked for DMV. I didn't write any books until I left DMV. Now I have 2 books, and we're gonna be working on a third. So you always want to make sure that you're improving and evolving.
So you've solved several different problems. So let's just kind of identify. So first was the suits. And
Right.
so you've got a program to be able to get suits. I love the fact that you now incentivize them to achieve the suit, right? Because I won't say it forces them, but it encourages them to really change. And then the reward is the suit. Um, so much of kind of what we were talking about before. Let's be faithful to the process, and then you get the reward, right? Um,
Right.
you now, have programs where what define some of the other programs that you have as this has grown. So there's the suit part, but you educate, job training. What are the different things that you have?
Well, we initially started with providing suits for men coming home from prison. That was the first move. And then we wanted to be more proactive. So that's when we developed the curriculum called Choices Workshops, where we got into high schools. And then we moved into colleges where we prepare students. We have 6-week, 8-week courses where we prepare students and we talk to them about the things we spoke about: relationship, business, entrepreneur, working, in interviews, mock interviews, tying a tie, dress, proper attire. And recently, last year, we got into what was it, 5th and 6th grade. So we went even earlier to teach young men earlier, young boys earlier, about the importance of image, how important their image is, because that 7-Eleven rule is huge, and we want to teach them, and not just teach them about going for an interview, but thinking about ownership, because ownership is so much of a factor in today's world. It's never too early to think about ownership. You always want to think about, how can I own this? How can I be the creator and own this, instead of how can I work for somebody? And I always say, there's nothing really wrong with working for someone if that's what that's what you want to do. It's nothing, but we always teach our clients about options. The more options you have, the better. If you choose to work for this individual, fine. But also know that you have a choice where you can hire individuals and not just always be the one that's hired. You can create something and not just always use something that's created. So options are such a great thing to have, and you never want to think in your mind that you're out of options, because when you're out of options, you react differently.
Yeah, for real. Particularly if you feel like you ain't got no options, you start making poor decisions as a result of that.
Right.
Let me ask you, man, how do you, I'm sure that your message and what you're doing right now has a lot more clarity now than it did when it first got started, right? It was just like, all right, we're gonna go do this. I don't really have I'm not very clear on what it is or kind of how it looks like. How do you get clarity? How have you gotten more clarity to be able to say, hey man, this is what I do, this is who I serve, this is how we do it? How have you gotten more clarity over time? I'm a big believer that one of the reasons we don't move is because things aren't clear, right? So you have crystal clear clarity on what you do now. And I love it because like that suits you is you. And when people think about PK Kersey, they think about suits, they think about dressing, they think about giving that. I tell people that's what it's about, like to be able to get so good at one thing that people, when they hear your name, they immediately equate it to something else. You hear the word John, you hear the name John Maxwell, you immediately think leadership. You hear now PK Kersey, you immediately think suits and being suited up. So how do you end up getting clarity as you go in your business?
That's a great question. I think it goes to first and foremost intention. You have to be intentional about what you're doing. You just can't think something is just going to happen without putting in the work and without being intentional. When I say being intentional, like I'll see someone who their business is glasses, but when you go to their social media, you'll see everything but glasses. So you have to be intentional as far as keeping the message on point. And branding, marketing, and message have to be all in a line. And one thing I noticed when I watch TV, I like watching movies. You may see the same commercial 20 times, and you don't even think about it. And the company doesn't care that you've seen it 20 times. They're going to keep showing it to you. So you have to be intentional, and you have to be consistent with what you're saying. Because a lot of times we'll say, well, people don't want to hear that. I've said that before, or they've seen that before. Listen, marketing, TV commercials, you may see the same commercial. Matter of fact, when you start seeing that commercial, you'll start saying the same thing as commercials, saying you've seen it so many times. So consistency, being constant, being intentional, that's how you, one of the ways how you can just be on point and target with your message. And it begins to ring in people's ears. Oh, that's so-and-so with this. That's so-and-so with that. So with what we've done, we have That Suits You, the nonprofit organization, the book, and thanks to Ty for the book, because I was going to call the book Journeys for Success. She said, no, you want to be on target with your marketing. So she called it Suited for Success. You got That Suits You, you got Suited for Success. Then the podcast is called Tongue Tied. So it's all goes together, saying the same thing, and that's about being intentional.
Man, that's a great segue into this because again, we're talking about solving problems and how to be able to create success by solving problems. you identified a new problem that is kind of branched off from that suits you. You have another company called PKs Pitch, and it's a social media company. So tell us about that. How did that come to be? Again, successful companies find a way to be able to solve significant problems. What problem did you see, and how are you solving it with PK's Pitch?
Yeah, when I was reaching out, starting That Suits You, I would reach out to a lot of companies through social media to try to tell them what we were doing, seeing how we can network or collaborate and do some things together. And I would see that a lot of companies, I mean, this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't have someone running their social media. So no one would get back to me. So when that happened, I would reach out to them and say, listen, I want to do your social media. If you don't have anyone doing your social media, I would love to do it. And when I would reach out to them, they say, hey, great, that's just what we're looking for. And so then I felt there was a business opportunity in here. So I started doing business like that. And not only that, I started reaching out to churches and maybe people who weren't so familiar with social media, but they had a good brand or a good message or a good company. And I would reach out to them and say, because sometimes people don't like to do anything else but what they do. If you're a chef, they don't want to be on social media. They just want to cook. If you're a speaker, sometimes they don't want. Now you have people that love both, but there's a great segment of people that would just rather do what they love to do. So if you find those people and they have a good social media or a good product, you can actually run their business, their social media business for them. And that's what I began to do. And it began to help a lot of people to concentrate on what they do. And I would do their social media for them.
Man, that's great, because my guess is you probably have caught a lot of diamonds in the rough, a lot of folks that would have a lot more business if more people knew about them, in essence, via social media.
Exactly.
Man, that's fantastic, man. Where can people find you? I want more people to know about what you do. I love the story, love the enthusiasm, love the fact that you're serving people. That's another thing, we talk about, trying to create success is find a way to serve, man. Find a way to serve people. And it's literally exactly what you're doing, both in the company that you do for That Suits You and PK's Pitch. Is like, look, I can take this off. Like you said, PK's Pitch is like, look, you don't really know much about this, but I can help you do that. And in essence, I'm serving you to be able to get your name out here even more. How can people find you? And I'll put this up here for you so they can see that.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. I truly appreciate it. I was able to share some things, but I believe that there's truly no true success without true service. So you put the website up there, people can definitely go to the website, contact us, see the work that we've been doing, see the videos, the partners who we've partnered with, Gail King, Steve Harvey on the show, Essence, like you said, a lot of great work, and the individuals who we've helped. But they can also go to social media at That Suits You and follow us, see the work we've done, connect with us, DM, direct message, email, pk@thatsuitsyou.org. Definitely accessible, always looking to collaborate and partner for a good cause.
Put this up here. And so I can tell you right now, it's interesting because so there's the social media, and like you said, even the email. Y'all, my brother giving his email out here. Y'all know he out here getting it. Y'all know he out here getting it. Let's talk for real. It's essentially, man, my boy Reggie, who's on here right now, he's launching a bespoke company that he and I am kind of serving as on the board there. And Reggie, just know you and I got to talk. We're going to talk to PK offline about some things that we can do to maybe donate some stuff or do some things for some of the kids, man, because he and I like to dress sharp. Yeah, well, he shouted out. He was like, I see you wearing that shirt, because the shirt I have is one of the bespoke shirts that he and his company make. Okay. So I could definitely see us collaborating as we get that off the ground, hopefully sooner than later. So you'll definitely hear from us on that point. Man, I always ask this question. Everybody who's on here, there's a lot of brothers on here watching the show or watching on replay. once we create the podcast for this, we'll listen on podcasts. And I think a lot of guys they want to launch something. They want to do something. They want to go out there and create something like what you've done, something of purpose, something of significance and impact. But they don't know how. They don't know what. What would you tell that person who feels like, man, I know there's something else out there for me, but I just don't know where to start. What's the one piece of advice you give them, PK?
I would tell them that don't allow that feeling to just go away. Use that feeling of I want to do something and channel it and focus it. And the first thing that I did, I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what to do. I reached out to a mentor. I reached out to someone who was in that field that was already doing it and killing it. And I wasn't afraid that they would say, listen, get away from me. I don't have time. I can't do that. You got to go someplace else. I went straight to the top. Dress for Success. I spoke to Miss Joy. I spoke to her, and she was willing to be a vessel. She was willing to be a resource, even to this day. I appreciate her. And also Bottomless Closet. I reached out to they were doing it for women. So I reached out to individuals who were doing it in that field to get information. Also, I did homework. What do I want to do? How can I do it effectively? And I spoke to people who I felt could give me good information. Even if they would have been critical information, even if it would have been something that I didn't want to hear. But don't allow that feeling of, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Use that to springboard you to gather information and to go about and to do it. I would rather do something, this is just my opinion. People think differently. I would rather do something at 65% and it not be the best than do nothing and wait till I feel I'm at 100% to do it, because I may never reach 100%, or I may, who knows what can happen. But during that 65% that I'm doing it at, I'll learn different things. I'll learn how to improve. I'll learn how to get better. I'll learn what mistakes not to make and what things to do. So I would rather, me personally, do it at 65 and fail and make mistakes than to wait till I feel I have everything at 100. And because I may never reach that.
Man, I appreciate that. All right, last thing before we go, because we got to give some more value to these brothers. What is the biggest thing that you see that annoys you when you see people wearing a suit? What's the biggest thing that you like, brother, you got to fix this, man, because I know it's something. Because let me tell you, man, from one brother who likes to dress sharp to another, I know you see stuff, you be like, oh, dude, just fix this thing. What's the biggest thing that you see that you like, look, brothers, just, put the tie up or tuck your shirt in, whatever it is. What is it?
The few things I would say are when they have a 2-button jacket and they have both buttons buttoned up, or they have, you don't see this as much, but you should see guys with the little tag on the sleeve jacket. You see that, or it's still sewed up in the back. So just little things like that you kind of like. I always say this because nobody ever told them. Yep. Nobody ever told them, look, unbutton that bottom button, or take that tag off, or take the thread out the back. Nobody ever shared that with them. So just those little things that kind of I'm like, dang, he think he's killing it, but he think he on fire, but he's off. He think
he on fire, but he still got the tag on. And listen, let me just so that everybody know, the tag on the suit don't work like the sticker on the hat. Okay, like we don't keep the tag on the suit. We keep the sticker on the hat, but we leave the tag on the suit. PK, man, dude, it's been nothing but an absolute blessing, man. I always love these interviews because I get a chance to meet somebody new. I get a chance to theme them and share with the world what they're doing. For everybody who's watching, and again on the replay, make sure you chime in, reach out to him, check him out on social media. That suits you. He's got a fantastic interview whenever he was on Steve Harvey and all the places and the people that he's helping on his website. When you go and check that out, I'm telling you, it's extremely impressive. And so before we go, I'm gonna have you stay on, PK, once we're done, because I want to figure out how I can help you help these men, because it's an absolute pleasure of mine, and it's an absolute passion of mine to be able to help men. And as we were talking, I was like, no, I gotta figure out a way how I can help plug in, man. So stay on. So thanks, man. Any closing thoughts?
Just appreciate you having me on. I definitely enjoyed myself. I had a great time. And to your audience, thank you guys for tuning in. Please hit us up, communicate with us. We look forward to talking. And once again, thank you for having us.
You bet. All right, you guys. Well, we're closing off another Men of Impact with Dr. Brad. We'll be back next week, as always, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And remember, Men of Impact with Dr. Brad is the show where high achieving, aspirational entrepreneurs are coming to be able to discover their purpose, pursue their calling, and impact the world. We'll see you guys next week.